It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood, from coast to coast and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. If you're one of those people that needs to know or predict what will happen next, or if you find yourself anxious and fearful about tomorrow, then today's show is for you. Our guest, Allison Carmen, like so many of us, was addicted to certainty. This addiction trapped her in a spiral of anxiety and fear. She's here today to discuss how we can learn to embrace the concept of maybe in order to reduce stress and worry in our lives and open the doors to hope and possibility. Her new book is The Gift of Maybe, Finding Hope and Possibility in Uncertain Times. Welcome, Allison. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Allison, this topic, this is my life. I'm sure it's like so many people, but oh my goodness, it's like this book was written for me. So you believe that the worry about tomorrow, that need to know what will happen, the need for certainty, you call this an addiction. So why do you classify it as such, and what are the behaviors?
Well, I'm going to first tell you my story. I always say I was addicted to certainty because if I didn't know what was going to happen next, I projected things were going to be bad or things weren't going to work out in my life. And I think a lot of us have this problem. We're so afraid of what's going to happen next when we don't know the future that we worry and we get afraid and we forget that so much more is possible in life. And what we do in order to deal with this uncertainty is we write stories about what needs to happen for us to be okay. The stories could be about work. I'm going to have this job till I retire. I'm going to have this amount of money in the bank when I'm 50. If my child goes to this college, everything's going to be okay. And we walk around with these stories of certainty, and they make us feel better until something unexpected happens. We lose our job. We don't have the money we expected. Our child doesn't get into that college. And then all of a sudden the uncertainty is back in our lives and we have no way to deal with it. And even though intellectually most of us know life has more than one lane, emotionally we can't handle this. And this is the way I lived my life. I was always so afraid what was going to happen next if I didn't know. And I was always thinking things are wrong and things are bad. I wrote this huge story in my life that I was going to grow up, become an attorney, get a job at a really large law firm, make a lot of money, marry this great guy, the balloons were going to come down, life was going to be a party, and I wouldn't have to worry anymore because my life would be set. And I actually achieved these goals. I married the great guy, got the job at the large law firm, and I actually remember walking to work my first day saying, look, I've arrived. No more uncertainty. Life is great. And the second day of work, my office mate comes in and says, hey, Allison, did you hear they're firing half the first years? And I was in the first year. And all of a sudden, the anxiety was back. The fear was back. What was going to happen next? What were my parents going to think if I lost my job? How would I afford my apartment? And even though I didn't lose my job, they did fire half the first years. All of a sudden, I realized that there was no certainty in life. So I stopped sleeping, and I started worrying more and more, and my immune system became compromised, and I started to go to all these doctors and said, please help me. I don't feel well. But after all this blood work, they found out there was nothing wrong with me, but all they were able to do is give me this little pill for anxiety. And so I went on and on like this for a very, very long time until one day I heard this Taoist story about this farmer. And this farmer had a horse, and his horse ran away. And his neighbor came by and said, you have the worst luck. And the farmer said, maybe. And the next day, the horse came back with 5 mares. And the neighbor comes by and says, you have the best luck. And the farmer says, maybe. And the next day, the farmer's son is on the horse. He falls off and breaks his leg. And the neighbor comes by and says, you have the worst luck. And the farmer says, maybe. And the next day, the army comes to take his son to war, but they can't take him because his leg is broken. And the neighbor comes by and says to the farmer, you have the best luck. And the farmer says, maybe. And in the Taoist tradition, this means life is neither good or bad. Things just change. But for me, maybe because I'm from the West, when I heard this story, I actually felt a pop in my chest. And for the first time, I felt hope in my life. I realized life has maybe. And just because something doesn't work out, or just because I don't know what's going to happen next, it doesn't mean it's going to be bad. So this idea of maybe takes me from this really cramped place in my mind where things are bad and opens me up to this place of hope and possibility, because maybe whatever I'm experiencing will get better. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe the answer will come. Maybe there's a way to accept what's happening and I'll still be okay. And it just changed everything for me.
So we started off saying that this is an addiction for people that need that certainty. So if someone is addicted, and we know what kind of a stronghold an addiction has, how do you incorporate that concept then of maybe and all the good attached to it into someone's life who is addicted?
Well, there are some people that are listening right now who are listening. They're not addicted. They have faith. What faith is I'm going to be okay no matter what. And those of us that are addicted are worried that if we don't know, or things look bad today, how are they going to get better tomorrow? Well, there's this beautiful exercise in chapter 1 of the book that I always share with people, because what happens is we're always on automatic. We don't even realize it, that the minute we don't get that client, the minute that guy doesn't like us, the minute we don't get that job, our minds are already in this place. Things are bad. They're not going to work out. How will I get another client? How am I ever going to find someone to love me? So we're kind of always spinning. And if we forget this idea of maybe, we're going to spend all our lives in this anxious, stress state. So what I do is I try to help people remember the maybe, because once you get to that place where you remember the maybe, it becomes your mantra. It becomes the way you think of life. You're always going to be holding life from a larger perspective. So the first thing I tell people to do, one of the best exercises in the book, is I ask people to write their fear down. Let's say you lost your job. You thought you're going to have this job till you retire. You say to yourself, what's my biggest fear? Well, my biggest fear is I'm not going to get another job. I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. I'm not going to be able to send my kids to college. And you ask yourself, are you absolutely certain that fear true? That fear is true, 100% true. And if you sit and you think about it, no, you're not 100% certain you're never going to get another job. You're not 100% certain you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage. You say, okay, what else is there? And then you start to write these maybe statements down. And at first you write them very broad. Maybe everything's okay. Maybe things will get better. Maybe there's something good here and I don't see it yet. And then you start to get more and more and more specific. Maybe I need to call Joan and see if there's an opening at her place. Maybe I need to take a class. Now, if you do this for 20 minutes, I can almost guarantee you're going to feel lighter, because all of a sudden you went from this really fear-based place to this place where you're holding things in a larger perspective. Your fear can still exist. I'm still worried I'm not going to get a job. But with maybe you realize life changes, and within that change, there's constantly hope and possibility. And the minute you give someone a little bit of light, they're going to relax, and they're going to feel more hopeful, and they're going to let more light in. And life starts to change when you start to live more in maybe.
Allison, does this concept of maybe, does this differ from positive thinking or being optimistic?
Yes, it does. I think most people try to wake up in the morning and say, today I'm going to have a good day. And like I said before, I'm going to land this client, my child's going to make the school play, and I'm just going to hold this positive attitude. But if you're afraid of uncertainty, the minute something happens that you don't like or that you didn't expect, it's going to be so hard to hold the positive thought. You don't get the client, your child doesn't make the play, and all of a sudden you're like, things are bad, they're not working out, they'll never change. And all day long you're just battling between the negative and the positive, and your fear of uncertainty will always win. So what maybe does, it allows you to kind of have a different perspective all day long. You're more a possible thinker. If you don't get that client, you say, okay, maybe I didn't get that client, but maybe everything is still okay. Maybe that wasn't a good client for me to get. Maybe I'll get another client. Maybe my child didn't make the play, but maybe they'll make it next time. So you're opening again and again and again to more and more possibilities. And when you start to kind of hang out in that open place, you're going to be more positive, because no matter what happens, you're going to realize that life will keep changing. And within that change, you still have hope and possibility. So I think people who are maybe thinkers are positive thinkers, but without maybe, it's going to be really hard to hold that positive thought if you're addicted to certainty.
Now, Allison, so many people spend a great amount of their time trying to relive the past. They live with regret, all those what ifs, and if I only had done this. And how can this concept of maybe help someone that's struggling with regret, or that person that is living in the past?
Out of all the things people come to my office, they always tell me the story of regret.
Mm-hmm.
They say, if I would have went into business with John 5 years ago, I would have been a millionaire today. If I would have married that guy, life would have been so wonderful today. And what's so interesting about the story of regret, it's always perfect. There are no twists and turns. So what's happening is people are looking at their life today, and they have money trouble, and they have problems with their spouse, and they're having business problems, so they look back on the choice they didn't make as if that was the choice that would have saved them. But what we forget is that everything in life has twists and turns. So we're writing the story of regret. Really, I call it a reverse maybe. We have no idea if that would have been good. Maybe it wouldn't have been good. Maybe you would have went into business with John and he would have cheated you out of money. Maybe you would have been at the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe that person that got away wouldn't have been good. So all of a sudden, when you start to look at the past with maybe, you could say, well, maybe that wouldn't have been best for me. And all I know is here I am today with the hope and possibility that maybe my life could be different from this day forward. So what maybe does, it's interesting, it allows you to cast doubt on the past. Maybe what happened yesterday will never happen again, but also cast doubt on that story we tell of that missed opportunity because we really have no idea.
The book is The Gift of Maybe, Finding Hope and Possibility in Uncertain Times by Allison Carmen. If you would like to learn more, you can visit her website, AllisonCarmen.com. Allison, in our final moments, what would you like to leave our listeners with?
This idea sounds so simple. It's just one word, but it's so powerful. Because when you enter this idea of maybe, you allow yourself to leave that little cramped, fixed place in your mind where you're so afraid that you're doomed, and you go to more of an expansive place where you think more is possible. And the minute you embrace this little word, you almost will feel like I did, a pop in your chest, and live life with more hope and possibility. And when you're able to do that, you can let go of so much fear and so much worry and enjoy the moment and be hopeful for the future and hopefully make better decisions in your life.
Allison, thank you so much for joining us today and for providing great tips for those of us that seldom consider the concept of maybe.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.